Front page of both papers, Westgate Tunnel thrown into chaos. And Ed, you're ahead of this story going back to the 9th of April when you said this on Triple M.
I'm getting some very big information coming through that in the Westgate Tunnel project at the moment, there is massive contaminated soil issues that are starting to rise. I understand it's a product that's called PFAS, P-F-A-S. And
PFAS?
PFAS.
That doesn't sound good.
No, it doesn't, and it's not. And it's a byproduct of fire retardant foam that has apparently leached its way through the soil all along Footscray Road area. The information is there's no safe levels of exposure to this stuff, and my mail is that it could cause a major slowdown to the project because the EPA can't advise where to put the contaminated soil to make it safe. So there's two issues here. There's the fact that there is contaminated soil and then what to do with it once they try to get it out. So I understand there's contaminated soil along the inbound lane on Footscray Road and around Shepherd's Bridge on Footscray Road and under and next to the Appleton Dock Bridge also on Footscray Road, so the whole area around there. So very interesting situation. Clearly everyone's health is not necessarily at risk, but is a concern for the EPA.
And we had Erin Brockovich in our studio a few weeks back, and she was in town specifically about that chemical PFAS. Let's have a listen to Erin Brockovich.
It is confirmed this is a cancer-causing compound. And again, I don't even know why we have to have this conversation when documents show our government notifying your government 20 plus years ago. This is a problem. Once again, why we ignore those warnings, and now we are on the verge of a public health crisis.
Erin, how would people know that they've been exposed to PFAS?
Well, they'll probably start figuring it out as they watch the news because it's happening everywhere from the Sunshine Coast to here to Perth to Queensland. There's things that you can notice, changes in your water, but people that are in and around military bases, clearly where they used a lot of firefighting foam, be on the lookout and don't be afraid to check your bore water. Don't be afraid to check in with your neighbor. And oftentimes they already know because whether it's they're talking to each other and somebody's sick or they know something about the chickens or some unusual tumors all over the cattle, they probably know and they're just waiting to come forward and say something.
Yeah, right now we've got an update. Ed, you've been working on a story as we speak this morning. What's the latest?
Well, let me put a little bit of meat around all this. As you can hear there, I mean, Erin Brockovich wasn't out here just for a holiday. She was out here with Shine Lawyers. So everyone's starting to circle here. And when this starts to happen, the costs explode. And this is where we need really good negotiators in here to pull this into line. So before everyone goes on a blame game, this is just an occupational hazard of tunnelling. And as we heard from Erin Brockovich there, it's the length and breadth of the world at the moment of this stuff that's seeped into the system. So when you want to put a new tunnel in, you're going to run into these problems. When you're going under Coot Island, etc., there was always going to be these problems. But let me just get to the guts of what this cost is. So when you are removing clean soil, it costs, let's say it's about $9.50 a tonne, right, to get it out. Like,
no contamination.
No, so it's $9.50. Contaminated soil, $300.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So that goes up. But here's where there's an extra kicker. Because there hasn't been a EBA agreement between the workers and the unions and those who are actually running the show there, that their agreement, their site agreement, is actually being paid at $9.25 because it is a percentage of the cost of the actual project. Now, when that project explodes, so too will the site agreement. So suddenly you've got the AWU and the CFMEU sitting there going, right, and they've said, weren't you guys need to come back a bit early from Christmas then? No, that's not going to happen. We're going to sit down and we're going to go through this again. So suddenly the EBA becomes a crisis point in the negotiation between the people who are building the tunnels and the workers. Add in the extra dollop of cream that the fact that there is all this health issue as well, and it gets to the big point.
EBA is an enterprise bargaining agreement that you negotiate with your workers, and you're saying that will blow up now on the back of this?
So how do you pay it? How do you pay it? My information, and the story that we're breaking right now on Triple M Site Breakfast, is that Transurban, who are the owner of these tunnels, have asked for an extra 20 years of tolls on this tunnel to be brought in to be able to pay for the money up front to build the tunnels. At the moment, we know that they have got 2 tunnelling machines that are just sitting there unable to go. A lot of the workers have been said, early Christmas for you, you can have your time off. They need to get it back in, but this has now become a situation where everybody's ready to go, but they can't pull the trigger. and the bills are mounting and looking to get bigger and bigger. Now, I haven't got a total cost for you there. I haven't had time to do the sums, to be perfectly honest, but it's not that hard to do. But when you go from $9.50 to $300 from clean soil to contaminated soil, when you have an exponential blowout in what the total cost is, where there are triggers, Darcy, and percentage of payments going in, well, as every dollar goes up, that percentage goes up. And then, of course, someone has to pay. And inevitably, it's a public works situation. Okay, private money will go in, but private money needs to get a return. And at the moment, my understanding is that return that Transurban are looking at is an extra 20 years of extra toll money to be paid to pay for the tunnels.
Is it your understanding, because I know this is all, none of this is, firm exactly what's going to happen, but would that be an ambered claim by them, saying sort of the maximum of what they want, that you negotiate them back to another result?
I think that everyone, all the private companies involved, the EPA, everybody, lawyers at 20,000 paces are all going, bang, bonanza. We knew this might come. And it's always, what builders and everyone in these businesses are like. It's always the variations where they make their money.
Yeah.
You get the quote, and then it's the variations. Now, I know that the government have put in a fair bit of money for variations. They've put that into the budget, so it's not exactly just budget as if nothing would go wrong. But the size of this is now starting to develop, and it's clearly there's a lot of work to be done in the next little period of time to either get an EBA in place so that it doesn't blow to kingdom come, and that the workers are looked after and the safety levels are right for not only the workers but for everybody in the community. But we've got to get this tunnel built, and then once it gets going, someone's going to have to pay for it. And at the moment, Transurban are saying, we'll pay, but you've got to pay us eventually, and that might be an extra 20 years of tolls.
Big story, that one. Exclusive on Triple M's Hot Breakfast. You hear it first here. As always, thanks to Lexus Blackburn.